was thinking that
Okay,
too, till I
you're on.
read this.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, maybe that's why we don't have a quorum. They're like, no meeting tonight, I guess.
They're all waiting out there, so let them in.
Yeah.
You didn't say
No, just tell them there's no meeting.
There you go.
Well, I got the video started, so if you would like to get in, I can go wait by the door and hear people try to get in. Well, I think that they're gonna talk about an item that's relevant to you first.
Well, no, we can wait, get through the administrative stuff real quick and then we get back.
We really can.
Really can't, I've had this issue so many times.
Yeah, well, Drew, I gotta get, it's fine, we'll just go through the administrative stuff first, and then when you come back in, we can go through we can switch subjects.
So, yeah, and then needs to be,
Oh, let me hear,
Okay,
if you tell me.
just let me know.
that's yeah, thank you for that.
So anyways, that's why I got David, because as one of these seats right here, I said, you need to ask these questions. I asked him what's the contract, ask him this, ask him how much revenue, whatever. And maybe,
Could you give me
maybe
a
his
ride?
desk is too big of a pile. Maybe it needs to be given to somebody else.
I'll look into it a little more. Would you give me a ride to the state center? No,
Oh,
I don't know.
I just do it.
Maybe
Cash.
home,
Send your check.
depends on how long this meeting takes.
When Brandy drop you off.
That's too much.
We've been out in Salt Lake and so I had this and I just told her to drop me off because there was another meeting I had before this one. Are we ready?
Yeah, we're live.
Colton's not here, so who wants to be the chair? Well, we nominate a chair. I nominate
Vince.
Vince to be chair.
All right, I'll call the meeting to order.
Thanks, Vince.
I'll zoom in on this agenda so I can see it.
And then roll call. So Vince,
Mike Sansel.
It's for the minutes, yeah.
It's not a member though.
No.
Not a member of the board.
It's Kirby Wolfinger.
J.R. Bird.
all right, then do we need to approve the previous minutes?
If you would like to, that would be great.
All right, I move to approve the previous minutes as recorded.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Is that Colton breaking through the door?
Could be.
All right, so what's next?
Wanna do the grant updates? So, project updates too. So grant, AIP 22 is signed, the FAA portion of it sounds like the co-op agreement for the UDOT portion of that grant is also signed. Mayor, you should have seen that. No, Josh, that's going to Josh, I'm sorry. Josh should have seen that. Sunshine, the co-op agreement, I understand got signed. I don't know if he sent the UDOT grant agreement out yet.
That'll be something
I have
I
not seen
have
the
to
second
sign
agreement.
anyway.
Okay.
But I won't see it until it's been,
It's just the matching portion to the FAA grant.
I'll get it to attest to and to file, but I won't get a link until it's already been signed by Josh, so I don't really know the status of
Right,
that.
okay, just, it should be coming, is like what I understand, so. Okay, so that's on the grant side of things. As soon as the co-op agreement, or the grant, the UDOT portion of the grant agreement is signed, I will submit an RFR for our invoices to date on that project. It's just for the design right now. We'll have a second grant in the spring after we open up the bids for the.
How's it going?
Hi, Colton. You just wanted the grant update for the fencing project.
Aye.
So then Tuesday, Kirby has set up a meeting for me and an electrician to do some electrical mapping inside the vault that's needed for our electrical engineer to design the cantilever gate, electric cantilever gate that we're installing as part of this project, or designing to be installed. And then we've got a set of plans. Sunshine, if you would go to those plans.
Cantilever's the one that goes like this?
Yes.
Yes, side by side, yes,
Side by side.
sliding.
Hmm.
Yeah, the snow zone here, I don't think it, that we discussed this at last meeting, I think, or last time we had a project meeting, I think, and the lift gates are pretty expensive. And they're better in like high snow, so a lot of like airports up in Wyoming have those quite a bit, but they're also on maintenance now. Just because the extra hydraulics and moving parts in there. And Kirby said he's very happy with his cantilever gates he has at his yard and over there around town, so we thought we'd just go with that. Should save us a few bucks there. So you can scroll to quite a few pages here. Some of these,
Just tell me when to stop.
keep going. Stop.
This, whoops, whoa, okay, well,
Stop right there for just a second. Okay, so this is our overall kind of plan there. We'll go through, the next plans after this one will be shots of this going around the airport. We're gonna start at the gate area and go clockwise around the airport. So if you wanna go to that next one there. Well, maybe we're not starting there. Maybe we're starting on the far left, far west side, and then we're coming, that's what we're doing. We're starting on the far west side. So here, this is off the end of the runway on the west side. You see the red X's is where the existing gates or fencing is. And then the purple is where we're proposing the chain link fencing. Actually, do we want to get Drew back in here?
Yeah, he's supposed to be in here.
Yeah.
well, he's helping us out with the door probably.
Oh, is he? There's no problem.
Because the
That's
door-
2 nights in a row.
That's why I was stuck out there, there's no one in.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
Yeah,
what
that's
we
what you get for
thought.
being late.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, no, the cat.
Oh, I need to talk to you before you leave.
Okay.
It's a good thought.
Oh, it's good,
No,
okay.
I think that's
Other
what
than
you
I
told
just
me.
need,
Yeah.
have you ever done anything with
Back.
air
Did you go-
conditioners on
Make sure to
planes?
go over.
What?
Air conditioners,
Not much, there's not very many that,
I know,
is it, yeah, you'll have to just.
we'll talk. Yeah. It ticks me off, I just got
You're
out of annual.
So we started,
I don't even have an oil change on it yet, 20 hours.
alright, so we're just talking about the west, starting the west side, we're gonna go east from here. As I said, the red is what we're removing, and then purple is what we're proposing for chain link fencing, and then green is the field fencing, so 4.5 foot wide, tall field fencing. I'll have similar to what you guys have already. It's got the field fencing on the bottom and then barbed wire strands at the top. Okay, so there's a gate location there at the top. I need to from the computer. That'd be helpful. Then I can point. Alright, so here we have, there's an existing gate up here that we need to relocate or remove right here. There's a gate here. I don't know if that's, we just have in there that we're gonna place that, have the contractor remove that gate and take it over to the airport building for storage and then let you guys decide what to do with that. Leon may want it back. It might be, I don't know if that's technically his. So that's why we thought we just.
That's not where the road comes through though, the makeshift road that he created,
No,
because it's further to the
this
west
way.
or
It's
the
further
east.
over here.
Yeah.
So, might be a gesture of goodwill to offer it to him, and that's up to you guys, what do you wanna do with that, I don't know whose it is, it's on your property. We have some interesting fencing coming together here, we'll have to maybe do some field fitting here with, there's a fence line that comes off this way and one that goes this way. And then we're gonna put our fence in here, so that'll be fun. Got a gate going in, what is my gate key notes? Sorry, I need to put them in here. Okay, number 12, sorry about that. We have a gate down here, Kirby, this is where we're putting in a field gate.
Yeah.
Right there, so it'll come in this way. into there, so you have a gate on the end of this runway. In case needs to be some sort of emergency access or whatever, it's always next to that gate.
Piper is down.
Yeah.
Alright, so then moving easterly. So all this field fencing is gonna be coming out, that's also, Leon's spot here is right around this area, that's where he had cut through before, and had that road kind of laid out. So, yeah, we're through here, all of that will be field fencing on the north side, and continuing with our field fencing, or chain link fencing on the south side here. If there's anything to really point out other than that, there. Sorry for the jumping. Alright, so now we're getting towards where the AWAS is, old road, nothing exciting on that sheet. Oh, there is something exciting, excuse me. Starting here, not marked, but I think we need to mark it. The existing fence here is technically on Berg's property, this is where Berg's property starts. Do you want us to go ahead and remove this fence here, because we're putting in new fence on the property line, so losing about, I think it's like 10 feet maybe.
We could communicate with Burdick, maybe they would tear that out.
On their own,
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know.
you wanna make sure they don't
You
do it
can try
until
and
this
sell
fence
it
is
at
up.
So that,
So do you want me to just keep showing it as staying in place and you guys will take care of that then for your,
I see.
I think we just work, we're gonna say, hey, we're putting up a brand new fence over here. If we put up a new fence, usually, we didn't ask me to say, would you pay half, but we'll just say, we'll put up the new fence, would you mind just taking down the old fence?
okay, so we'll just leave it on the plans then as we're not doing anything with this portion of the fence. It goes the whole length of their property, so just wanna make sure.
Well, that's fantastic.
Right, so then we'll pick it up again here and start removing fence, existing fence. This area was a little, we talked about this with Drew and Kirby and Clyde, one of our design meetings here. So this existing fence will get removed. We tried to find kind of the best alignment. This has got some drainage, some really crappy soils, and so we decided, kind of come through here and then follow this old road where the road used to go, down to this point. My purpose there, and then we're gonna put a gate in here. The gate will be where that water line crossing is right now, and then future sewer crossing.
Kimberly, just real quick,
Yeah,
on the northwest corner, if you could go back that, remember we discussed the gate for the CUP line people if they needed to get in there for access?
okay, yeah, I thought that's,
Is it on there? I
That's
didn't, I don't know, I
this
might
right
have missed
That's
it.
the southwest.
Is
Put
it
it up.
southwest?
did you
Did you
want
need
it up
a
here instead?
northwest?
Their line is on the northwest.
Right, yeah.
So,
Where their line
Well,
is?
I think their line actually, like,
Is that the
this is one of
203?
their,
Yeah, they
their
asked for
aquatic
access if
protection
possible.
guys. And
Why
then
we're
there's
doing
another
this,
one
you know
up
what I
here.
mean?
Project North right through the property.
Yeah,
It's
so
only a little
that's
costly, but yeah.
this
definitely
way,
do
so
it.
that's why we thought maybe the south side, just because it's access down from the road,
Mhm.
rather than, I wasn't sure how they would access from the
Just
north.
short thing.
There you go.
either way.
I
That's
mean,
what
it's
we
up
all
to you,
say.
you guys know this line
Yeah,
better.
there's at least 10, 15 grand in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think they care where they go through.
No,
yeah,
they
they put it,
didn't.
and we
No,
put
he
it off
wasn't.
the end instead of on
who's it for?
these properties here, because these are getting ready to get developed down
Okay.
here.
Oh, I got you.
So, yeah, if you want us to move, this is now the time to tell us where to put this gate. If you want that moved.
It'd be more convenient for us on the south, but
Right, and it's your gate, so.
Yep.
I don't think they care.
No, they didn't care, they just didn't want to have to walk all that way.
Right,
But yeah, we're good.
okay. Cool.
This is coming.
Okay, so we were talking about, the water line coming across it, and we are putting in this is just a vehicle gate,
Mhm.
a manual gate, just a single, I think 14 footer here. Along this line, so what we didn't wanna do is cut off this road, we could have, followed the property line here and then cut down. But I feel like it's useful to have access here, especially because I think the FAA comes through and the maintenance guys come through for the AWAS. We like to come up this way. And also that way you have access from the north as well, and you have a way to pull off the highway or the road, safely before you get into the gate. If you're comfortable with that, we'll keep running. We're gonna come back to the south side here, that I've got a blow up of this area here, so we'll come back to that. Continuing along the north side, this is where that sign is, there's a sign, barrier right now, and a sign that says, I can't remember what it says right now, but
Road closed.
road closed. Or something.
Part of the neighborhood.
Right, so, we'll take that out, that's gonna get taken out, and then, just coming straight across, we offset this portion that's parallel to the road, to be just outside of the right of way, or right on the right of way from the road. Because your property line is actually on this side, but obviously we can't fence it on this side of the road. So we did, look at the right of way for the road and set it there so that there's not an issue there.
We roamed across the road there. That's interesting.
And then on the south side here for the chain link, this is existing chain link through here, so we're gonna take out go ahead and take out, if you want us to, we can also note to not take it out, the existing field fence that is doubled up with the chain link fence that's there, that others have put in.
I'd say while we're there, take it out.
Take it out, okay, that's what we have it marked as right now, it's perfect, and then at this point, we'll start the chain link off to the west there, and do chain link. That goes. Then again, on the north side there, it's all this extra fencing in here, we have marked as removing it, and then just getting picked in alignment. Follow the property line here to here, and then again off the property line slightly because of the right of way, crossing this drainage as well, outfall. And property line. And then here's your water tank, or your water fill station here. Put chain link across there. We could have, we talked about this, I think, already, but the property line does jut down to the road and then back up. But because we wanna put a gate in here, we wanna have room for trucks and everybody to pull off first. That'd be best just to come straight through, and so we'll have a gate here as well. That'll be a double wide gate, so it'll be 28 foot, 2 14 footers, chain link gate through there, tying into this one. And then we're back over here, and this is Drew's favorite property. Mayor, if you weren't aware, you will be now. There is, so these are all contour lines, because this property owner has built up a berm, a pretty sizable berm of rocks and cobbles around this little building, which we won't talk about what's in there.
What is in there?
We don't wanna talk about that on public
Who is
record.
it?
Perforate, yeah. They use them
So
for
they built
perforating.
on our property
Yes, and they fenced it
We talked to them already.
as well.
and
they're gonna have to move it?
they're aware they're probably gonna have to move that,
Yes,
so.
and it would be great if they could do it before June 1st of next year.
So is it just burned around the building?
It's burned clear around,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the building's on flat ground, but in
Yes.
it, so if it explodes, it goes like this and not out?
Right.
Cool. Well,
And-
there's an
and-
opening.
and
But they left, yeah, I was gonna say,
And, out towards the runway.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're thoughtful.
double berm around their building and then who cares about the planes on the runway, huh?
Right, who cares? Yeah, so that's,
Gosh.
that building, everything, I'm not putting in the plans that the contractor has to deal with that. That will be dealt with prior to the construction, hopefully. Maybe it's not.
Oh, man.
But,
Nobody did, till we.
You know what, any piece of property I've ever purchased, one of the first thing I do is hire a surveyor and go put in the corners before I do anything.
and that too.
Yeah.
Well, he probably just looked at the old barbed wire fence and was like,
Yeah, that's what I say, before I do
Yeah.
anything, I'm like, hey, just costs a couple $1,000s, survey it and make sure that it's where it's supposed to be. Cause now it's gonna cost him how much to,
Okay, so, Yeah, this is over by, now we're getting that corner, this is where the asphalt pile starts over here, so just to put in perspective, Mayor, where this is actually on the airport. Alright, then we're gonna tie into that existing chain link there.
Exactly.
So that kind of covers the overall plan of the fencing. This next one is a close in of the hangar area and the cantilever gate. So right now we've got that chain link coming up along the existing property line on the south. One thing I want to note too here is that the existing fencing is not on the property line. It's actually about 10 feet
So
inside the
it's
property.
shifted, the whole thing
Right,
is
so
like,
I wanted to make sure Drew was aware of that in case, so his property owners down here that are developing and doing things, they're not shocked when, the contractor comes out and starts clearing lines on the,
how will general public get in there?
into, so that's, we're getting there. So, this is still the cattle guard, okay?
Okay,
We'll fence up to the cattle guard, so, there's not ability for animals or anybody else to come through there.
oh, I see.
Right, the animals. But then we're
Okay,
gonna come in, we're gonna put a gate here, and fence. So what my goal is to make sure the electrical vault was inside the airport property fence. And then come over here and tie into,
okay,
put a person gate here. And then tie into the building corner.
perfect.
And then here, same thing, we're gonna put another gate, person gate. These, I'm not planning on having any kind of locker code unless you tell me you want a locker code on those gates. Really, we're trying to keep people out, cars from, limiting the car access by the cantilever gate here.
What, yeah,
So then we're gonna take out,
most of them that I've seen, people gates even have, so the pilots know, it's
Right.
just the Unicom or something like that.
right, we can do that, if you wanna put a cipher code on,
Every airport that I've seen is that way.
Always that way.
okay, we can do that.
Vernal's is that way, I'm trying to think of some of the last ones that I flew into, like, up in Idaho, or, Idaho was that way. I flew into, Bryce Canyon Airport recently, and it was good because I remember as I was walking out the gate to have the code on the back of the gate. And then I couldn't remember what the code was, but it wasn't the normal Unicom, so I had to get my camera,
Take a picture.
reach down, take a picture, and then I'm like, okay, that's what it is. But still, there's some security there.
So I'd say the non-electronic kind, the push button.
The push, yeah.
Yeah.
That's usually the kind that it is the big mechanical.
Yeah.
Right, push button.
Mhm. Doesn't have to be super fancy, but just something. Oh, Moab, I just flew down there not very long ago, same thing, they have the code. Like,
And maybe that south people gate you could just put a master lock on it and hang the keys.
well, he'll want to go through it fairly often,
Well, I'll just,
go through the other way.
I just don't.
Drive through.
Yeah, that's
Well,
true.
there's not a gate there, I have to go through the.
So because you're not a Part 139 airport, you don't need to have the locks, but if you want them, I mean, I don't see why
What's
you
the,
can't.
explain to me part 139.
Commercial service airport,
Yeah, and all the ones that except for Moab's would be, but like
they're
Bryce
commercial
Canyon,
service.
is Bryce Canyon,
Bryce Canyon, I believe they,
do they?
Okay.
yeah, but.
I know they don't have self-serve fuel, it took me off.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, nice. Nobody's around, so then I had to fly to Wonderland.
Oh, down the way down the lake.
Lola.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not, it's really up to you guys, if you want those, I mean, we can specify that, I don't know that that'd be an issue for the FAA.
It'd be
Well,
nice to
we're-
put them in, I mean,
Yeah,
they're in and that's that.
yeah, I think the
Not to
same.
worry about it later, just don't have to.
So yeah, it'd be two-person gates with cipher codes then,
Yeah.
cipher locks, there and there.
If I have a plane out on the ramp, even though there's a car that can't go out there, I don't want people out there either. Unless they're pilots or they need to be there for some reason.
Just making a note, if you wanna flop this gate here, instead of having it right next to the building, have it just be the same as what this one is.
I'd say, yeah, and I'd have them both swing out personally.
Swing away.
Those,
swing-
they have one like that in Vernal, and all
This
you have to
way
do is you
and
stick
then
your
this
finger
way?
in, cause the latch mechanism comes in like this,
Uh-huh.
and so you can just stick something in there and push the latch out of the way and open it. Cause the door swings into the airport.
That's good to know.
Oh, yeah, we don't want
So,
that.
yeah, so,
Vince is
You don't
right,
want it
leave
to
them that way,
swing.
swing in,
You want them to swing into the parking lot, right?
correct.
yeah.
Like you're running out of the, if you had to run out, that means.
Well, the way you have them is correct, swinging into where they are, but maybe just make them both swing this right, same way.
And then we've got the gate we're planning to put here after discussing with Kirby, Clyde, and Drew,
Yeah,
versus down this way.
yeah,
It does make electrical a little bit more tricky, but that's okay. That's one of the reasons we're meeting with Bob next week, is to map everything in the vault. We do have a spare conduit here, that I think we can intercept and use to get the electrical to the gate.
And the fuel
the
guy
keypad will
would
be
be
on
okay
the
with that
left.
location too.
One of the things that we were discussing just recently was, you got vehicles coming through here. Try a way to, make sure that they're not triggering these loops when they come through. But I also think that you have to sit on these loops for it to actually trigger the gate. So if you're just driving through, that should not trigger them. We're thinking about maybe some paint around here, around the loops, just to be more visually aware, so people driving would be more visually aware as if they're cutting through. Colton, like if you're
Just
checking on an airplane over here and then driving back to your hangar, or
one
whatever.
hit in the loop.
We did run a fuel supply truck, pup and trailer and the pup as well, in here, to make sure that they could come in and turn and circle and then also exit, with the width. My designer originally wanted to put a smaller gate in, I said, no, we need to check it first, and so we upsized the gate to make sure that the fuel truck can still come in and loop around and then exit.
Awesome.
That's probably gonna be your largest vehicle
Hmm.
that comes through is the fuel supplier, the tanker. They may have to, come in and circle around and to get to the infill locations here, but
Is that one tie down spot gonna affect the big truck going around there? Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
He's got a lot of room over here to come back through.
Okay.
They have a lot of room. And then continuing that fencing and tying into the corner of this hangar as well. And then on the west side for the hangar area, we'll put chain link fencing in between the three hangars to keep access out. And then have a vehicle gate on this road here on the end of that third hangar. So if there is another hangar that gets in there, that's fine, they'll still be on the other side, but that keeps the perimeter of this area, more secure. And those that want to drive in and park between their hangars, they can come through the gate and then park between their hangars. They won't be able to come in this way, but it also helps eliminate, people who don't belong from driving on the airport. And then,
I don't think I've ever parked in there anyway.
I know a lot of people will do that, but that makes sense to keep people from going up. Important to the alley.
Could you, I was gonna say, yeah, or you could do it right there next to the pavement, and then people could still park. Just on the north side of the hangar, instead of,
Here,
putting the fence on the south side of the hangar.
it's up to you guys, what did you rather have?
But it depends on people at those hangars, if they wanna pull up and park there, or,
I feel like, if you put them up here, you could have, general queue public coming through here, and parking here, doing whatever, having more access. I don't know that there's doors on the sides of these, person doors.
There's not, but
So that's good.
I see your point.
Right, just from a
think it
security,
matters.
while this is a perimeter fencing project and not a security fencing project, I can be specific about that. It would, how it's shown probably would be more secure.
yeah, that probably is, cause I mean,
Yeah.
there's only you guys and they park there, and it's not like you're all clunked up there anyway, so. Right.
No, I just
Another
know
option
some
is to
people, if it were
put the
me and
gates
I
here.
wanted to pull in like if I had a longer trailer or something, and I wanted to be able to just pull up in there,
Right.
I could just pull up in there and not worry about it. There's nothing they can do on the side. I own the hangar on the southeast anyway, and so mine is exposed, you know, half of it's exposed anyway, so it's like, man.
Right, well, and another option for that, instead of having this gate all the way over here on the far west of that third hangar, you know, we could put the gate over here. There's a little bit more utilities to manage, you know, we probably need to.
I'm okay with it how it is. I'm just thinking for accessibility for the ones that own the hangar, I think it might be more convenient for them to have that fence. But it's so minuscule thing, and it's gonna be the same amount of fence whether we put it here or here.
It is.
We can change that at some point if we get different feedback.
There's gonna be a gate in there anyways, isn't there?
Yeah.
Alright, so now we're to our details, just typical of what the fencing, the gates, the chain link gate will look like. We are using UDOT standards for the fencing, for a lot of it, so should be universally available, we hope. And then the pedestrian gate here. And then we've got the cantilever slide gate details, for the cantilever. If I didn't mention that before, the gate, we will have bollards, all around the keypads and around the gate, posts for the cantilever gate on all sides. So there's quite a few, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bollards at least around that to protect those. Keypad there's details for the fence, chain link fencing, and then for the field fencing, what's not shown on this, I need to draw the lines in, is the barbed wire that's crossing these. There's barbed wire, 2 or 3 strands of barbed wire on the top of these. And just other details that, and then this is for our electrical plan. And that's the fencing. Okay. To summarize, my notes are, feedback from you guys to make sure I got it all. The verdict fencing, that's where we are encroaching on verdict's property there, that's going to, the city's gonna work with them, we're gonna not show removing that on the plans. The city will work with verdict on that.
Okay.
And perforators, so perforators and verdict.
Okay.
Perforators are the two, the explosives building and the.
Oh, yeah, and then
I
the
like
city's
the
also gonna
5D,
work
by the way.
with the other
5D.
property manager to have them
I don't know
remove
why
their
we wouldn't be on
Berman
the same one
building.
as Vernal too, because they don't have hardly any traffic.
Yeah, but we should make something.
It's annoying as soon as you get to 6,000,
And
7,000.
then gates, we're gonna put cipher
everyone,
locks
I'm like,
on the person
I
gates,
don't like
the
that
person
frequency
gates.
anymore, I hate it. 'Cause you
For
don't
the
need to
vehicle
see-
gates, do you want those, since they're not gonna be used very often, the ones at the hangar area and then the other vehicle gates that we're putting in around the airport, thinking padlocks or whatever kind of, just simple,
Just, yeah, that's
If,
chain and lock type.
yeah,
to be
I'm
there.
just wondering, you know, if we have the gates, it's been mentioned like, well, there's a gate there.
Right.
That's cool, unless you can't ever access it for those that need to access it, so.
Right, but who needs to access it typically is with vehicles running, the fence line would be Clyde, city
Yeah,
personnel,
nobody else
right? And then
really.
during construction, if we
Yeah.
need for construction, we have
Personnel.
to.
I'd say just padlock and
Clyde, more automatic
Yeah.
one, speak up, you know.
It might need a
Remote control.
I have one for the gun range and it may be the
Yeah.
same.
That's what.
Do you want the
pretty much.
contractor to provide those padlocks and chains, or do you want to do that
All our
yourself?
locks on the airport right now are the same locks.
I was just telling Carol that.
We would keep them as the same key.
You'd want to, yeah.
I would, because otherwise you're gonna get into.
So do you
all
want
these
to
different
provide your own
keys.
locks then? Okay.
It's a nightmare.
The keychain,
Yeah.
key number 3. the
Guided
black.
by the city.
That's what I should do with all my buildings. Just keep all the same.
Okay, that's really all the notes I got from you
I've
guys.
got that whole thing of keys.
Right.
And then we might wanna just let Brad might know about that
the fencing is gonna move a little bit.
I know he is moving forward with developing those lots.
Looks
And we
good down there
did
too, by the
do
way.
a record of survey, because we're doing a fencing project, we're required to do a record of survey. It has not yet been filed with the county, but it will be. So if any of your property owners have issues, we did do a record of survey to establish the actual property line. And then for constructions, during construction, I'm gonna have my guys, that'll be part of our construction contract with you, is to have our surveyors actually stake the fence line for the contractors so that they know exactly where they're gonna go and they don't have to get a surveyor to do that.
Is the perforator's yard survey, because I know they
That's
they
part of
came
that
out to do
record
that.
survey. Yeah.
So they've already done that.
Yes. Well, not their whole yard, their yard, your property line has been surveyed. The airport's property line has been surveyed.
But the
And-
perforator's
Is there a
yard,
corner?
not yet.
Is there a corner marker already there for them?
I
So if they
don't,
come in and start doing?
I'm not sure if they did that or not, let me find out. Their corner. Okay, I will find out. Okay, I texted Neil, not heard back from him yet, hoping he can join us.
I don't know if he's accepting something, but I
Because I think we looked at it. Let's see.
Yeah. And I talked with you, Kim, I thought that's what the surveyor was gonna come out and do specifically for their yard, so they knew where to move their building to that day that he came out, so he might have already done it, but just let us know and we can
Yeah, I'll find out.
talk back with them.
Then we sent him out to get a bunch more information and stuff, so that's why they're a little late on the record survey, but it is in process. Cool, so bidding war, I'm
So,
shooting to have this bid in the end of January, open bids the end of February, so I'll be scheduling a pre-bid meeting that will be online, and then a bid opening will be that last week of February, and then it'll be in person here in the afternoon. Or maybe I had it earlier so I could get lunch with everybody. I gotta have at least 2 tacos a year, I think.
All right, I guess, anything else can be,
Not on that item.
on that? Okay, I guess Kirby, you're up on that, is that you? Good. B5?
That's probably me still.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
probably
it.
looking at the
Oh,
previous
this has
minutes.
your name.
that's a copy of the previous minutes, we have ours on this.
Yeah, you might have the previous, I was gonna say, it's not
Like Rose.
like,
Did we officially change our chairman for the meeting,
give me one.
by the way?
Oh, I
Where's
did,
the-
but I can
That's it.
take back over, I don't know if they'll
Do
talk
I-
about that.
I don't know, 'cause, I mean, you were here, so Vince was chairman.
That's
so
the recent.
I didn't know if you guys had
That's-
officially
they laid out the old one.
changed roles.
Oh, that's the recent, yeah, that's
No,
great.
no,
And this is another part of it, but
okay.
it's a good one.
I got it, no, we'll share.
Of course you got it.
Steve was able to join.
I actually wrote this.
So that was the fencing project, and now we're at the ALP update.
ALP update, I can
Yep,
give that
that's
part,
what we're
I can do that.
Mhm.
ALP update is submitted to FAA. They are woefully behind. They've admitted that they are woefully behind on reviewing. We keep,
What is the ALP?
so the master plan update and airport layout plan
Mhm.
project that we just completed, that was all those TAC meetings we went to and
Yep,
that we did and everything. So that part is, we're all finished, it's all been submitted to FAA for their review. And once FAA gets that reviewed, the Denver office, then they will submit the airport layout plan portion of that to airspace, which is another department that goes through all these different lines of business within the FAA to make sure that they don't have any issues with what we're putting on the LP. That can take a while, so that's the next step, so. Our work is done unless we get a bunch of comments back from FAA on the master plan or the plan set. But we're just administratively tracking that to get it to closure And then once that's all been approved, then you'll get a request to sign that AOP once it's ready in the 6 to 8 weeks time, maybe longer. At that point, whoever is the sponsor will need to sign that.
Good.
And it'll go digitally, they're doing digital signatures just like the grants.
Nice.
So that should be pretty slick. So that's the next step on that. So we have requested 90% of that grant. We can't request any more until the FAA actually reviews all of the documentation and everything, and we're ready to close out. Okay. Overlay district. I was hoping Neil would be able to join us, but unfortunately he said he was gonna be out of the office all day, but he thought he might have some time to jump in. He's got some personal things going on right now, but since he can't, that's okay. I will wing it. It'll be great. So 2 years ago, I believe it was, House Bill 206 was passed by the Utah legislature, which requires all airports to have an overlay district.
Oh, that's not.
No, that's fine. That's probably,
Oh, is that more helpful than what, than actually the document?
well, we're gonna go through all of it, but I might start with that, first one, yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, so Roosevelt City, in 2017, 2018 timeframe, you did amend your city code. I think it's 17 is the section in your city code to add an airport layout or airport overlay zones. The only issue with that is that it references a map and no map was ever made available or confined. This would be that map, if it was available. So it shows the various zones. It's also what we used when considering sand mining operations right next to the airport, and provided some limitations and just setbacks that they needed to maintain from the airport. Because we had that overlay zone in place, we were able to protect that buffer, keep a buffer between the sand mining operations and the end of the runway on the east side. And that's where that kind of fell into. What's going on now is that the county, Duchesne County, has been working systematically. They've been working with Duchesne Airport to establish an overlay zone for the county land outside of Duchesne Airport's property. That has been passed and finalized. It's gone through several iterations. And then based on that, they have developed one for the Roosevelt Airport as well. Because it is also their responsibility to have an overlay zone to control the land that they have in the vicinity of the Roosevelt Airport that is not city property. Is that all jive? Okay, so that's where we started, right? So you have something in place, we just need to probably add a map to it, would be the very minimum. The county, what I want to point out though is that county is looking at approving, they're considering the Roosevelt, and that's where, if you go to the second picture, so I probably just scroll.
Sorry, I have to go back to the index here. Let's see. This one?
Yeah. So the county's language has been modified. So they really used Roosevelt's language to start with, the Roosevelt City's language to start with, and then it got modified through public process and input they were getting on Duchesne. So basically the differences are, you see this one is much less colorful. They have combined zones 1 through 5. Instead of having 6 different zones, there's only 2. So that's why it's a little bit more monochromatic in that sense, less colorful. For whatever, some of that input had to do with various businesses and organizations that operate on county lands, exploratory work on county lands. So the pressure from that industry. So anyway, you guys have something in place. We probably just want to add a map. What we want to look at though too is the county is going to be looking at doing something that more looks like this. And the language is a little bit different as well than what you have because they have kind of compressed those zones. So if you go to the Word document, Sunshine, if you wouldn't mind. Or the PDF for that, yes, the one with words. So this is, what they are currently proposing through the next planning commission meeting. I can't remember if it was last week or if it's coming up.
So the commissioners meeting on Monday is when they are gonna have their public hearing on this.
Okay, so they're meeting on Monday to talk about this. They might be good to, have a bit of a read through on it. I did do a little bit of comparing theirs to yours type thing. So some of the differences is how they define high density and low density housing. May be different than what the Roosevelt City's definition for high and low. Their high density is anything more than one dwelling per acre. Where the city may have a different, I didn't look to see if you have a high density right there, you have one dwelling per acre. Low density is less than one dwelling per acre, which makes sense for county purposes, but in city, you're gonna have more than one all the time.
So let me interject just for a second.
For sure.
So I spoke with Commissioner Killian called me today, and he's concerned, wants representation at their Monday meeting with their public hearing in mind, because they want to adopt whatever Roosevelt City has for our airport and not have two different overlay districts.
Okay, that'd be great.
Which is a little complicated, because the thought was when we annex around that airport, they don't wanna have this in place, and then we roll in with our overlay.
Heavier hammer.
Yeah, but it's a little complicated in the fact that they're restricted until the sewer develops, and until they annex, they are stuck with that 1 acre minimum on the dwelling side. So I don't know how quite to handle that, but they do want to adopt whatever we have, just so we have one.
Well, the other thing is though, is we could modify our ordinances because you technically aren't supposed to be building residential homes in an industrial zone anyway.
Right, and that's another thing to look at. I'm sorry.
So if that's all zoned industrial around there.
Well, it's not. That's the
On
problem.
the west side, I know it's not.
Yeah, and that's what they're talking about, is we kind of annex that southwest side.
Mhm.
If we get sewer ran out.
North
that way.
is,
If you go back
east
to
is, south
one of the
is.
maps.
Just that one
Just the
side.
one on the west.
Yeah, that's fine.
And Neil did just join us, just so you all know.
Perfect. Hi, Neil. Kind of. Thank you
Neil,
for
we're
having
so
me.
glad you came.
We are. I'm very glad. Yes. We were just kind of going over some of the differences. Drew, you had mentioned that there's a commission meeting, county meeting on Monday, public hearing for this.
What time?
1 o'clock.
Oh, that's perfect timing.
No.
Nobody's gonna be there.
1 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'll be attending the meeting, just, they wanted some and all that could have come, but I'll try to-
Well, I guess, because I haven't looked at this very thoroughly, can you explain a little bit, well, now that Neil's here, can you explain the differences
I'm hoping
between
Neil will explain it.
what the county's proposing and what we already have approved?
Do you hear that? Sorry, Neil, hold on for a second. I mean, keep telling us a story, just not stuff that we actually need to hear, to make sure we can hear you. We're trying to get the volume set. Tell us about the weather in St. George.
Yeah, I forgot he lived down there, that's ridiculous.
Sorry, I don't know what's.
St. George is really nice
There we
right
go.
now.
There we go.
Now we got you.
You hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Very well. Almost yelling at us.
Okay. Sorry about that, everyone.
Okay.
We'll progress now.
Perfect.
Alright,
So the primary difference is between what the county has done and what the city has done is really that the county combined the various land use compatibility zones. So if you read your ordinance, you'll have zones 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that have different designations about what is permitted, what's not permitted in those zones. The county ended up combining 1 through 5 of the 6 zones and then left zone 6 independent. And the reason for that is that zone 6 is much less restrictive than the other zones. And so they felt like that was appropriate, that area that's a little further out beyond the airport have a little bit less scrutiny or less restriction than
Now,
those zones that close in.
what is the restriction on the 1 through 5?
The primary restrictions are the type of land uses that should be approved. And namely, those are things that are specifically create higher density gatherings, churches, hospitals, schools, things of that nature. And then also, just in general, residential development is suggested to be restricted out of those zones as well. Zone 6 loosens that up, and it's not so restrictive on residential and schools and that sort of thing.
well, zone 6 is the traffic pattern zone, so that's this dotted line that goes around. So everything in,
Yeah,
that's not,
the big area.
not in these hatches, but is inside this dotted line. So all of this is zone 6. And so there are restrictions there for schools, hospitals, and high-density housing. And so that's where the high-density housing comes into play, I think is see if I understand what Drew's trying to convey. The concern is, so say this area here is right now county land, I'm assuming, and they want to develop this, but they can only do right now for high density 1 dwelling per acre.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, they couldn't do anything more than 1 dwelling per acre in this land, but when that gets annexed in, now it can be whatever the city's high density housing stipulation is.
Do
Which may
we
be 5
allow?
dwellings or 10.
So Roosevelt's though, and you're talking zone 5?
Zone 6 is what's
Yeah.
6, it only allows low density residential zones are allowed,
correct,
according to the
right,
current code.
right.
And what's a
High
low density?
Just our R16, 20, and RR1s, so, RM zones are the high density.
They could have a
6,000 square foot.
Yeah.
So it's okay, I think we're okay with that.
Right, so I mean, when they get annexed in, they'll now be low density, you know,
Right.
where they could have been, they would be considered low density if they're not meeting your R20.
Sure.
Right,
I say we keep ours and make, if the county just wants to adopt ours, keep it the way it is.
right.
What are the other zones? That's what, I guess so now that we understand that zone, what about 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
So-
Because county's like 1 through 5.
Right, so runway, zone 1.
So are they just saying,
They just have the 2 zones, right?
Right, they've combined 1 through
They
5
whittled it
together.
down just to 2.
and so what do they allow in 1 through 5, and what do we allow in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
So on ours, I can tell you the zone 1, and that would be the furthest away, Cam, correct?
No, the zone 1 is
Right next to the
is-
closest in.
right, zone 1 is this
It's a runway
The blue
protection
runway
zone.
protection zone, and it actually is a,
Only airport uses and activities are allowed within the RPZ.
And what does theirs say in the 1 through 5?
Do you have a copy of theirs, Kim?
I do have theirs, actually that's in this.
Because that's what, I just want to see what the biggest difference is in there. Outside of that, I'm not too concerned between that and the traffic pattern. Sounds like we're this or that, but
Zone 2 on ours, just while she's looking, is basically prohibiting land uses within the zone or residences, all residential zones, places of public assembly such as churches, schools, college, hospitals, so basically everything is out on that zone two as well.
So this is what it used to say, what yours pretty much
Mhm.
says right now, and then they're combining 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all together. And that's their proposed language, so if that's helpful.
So they're basically 1 through 5, it doesn't matter, everything that's restricted in 1 is restricted throughout the whole thing. Is that the case?
That's right, that's right.
It's more restrictive than ours.
Yeah, it's more restricted than
And
ours.
that's what the commissioner was concerned about, was theirs was more restrictive than what ours was in a lot of those.
But I don't,
Low and high density residential places for public assemblies such as schools or churches, and like sports complexes and things like that. Schools, colleges, hospitals, shopping centers.
So to reiterate, 1 through 5 is condensed into just 1, and then they have 6 as their number 2.
Right, so 1 through 5 is prohibiting all of this. It's prohibiting asphalt plants, sand and gravel mining, rock crushing is prohibited.
Okay. And
where
this
does
was-
Burdick paving fit within that? Because would they become immediately?
They're on number 6.
No, they're number 2.
That's what I was thinking.
They're right in number 2, but this would be a grandfather situation.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, if they do that, then they grandfathered in, but nobody else can do that.
Yeah, discussion.
They used to, not anymore.
We just had this.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah,
They used to.
okay, well,
Actually, they're in zone 5,
Pretty good.
right, because they would be, in the sideline zone. Yeah. The zone 1 is off the ends, immediately off the ends.
And our zone
2 is the
5
red.
Go to the
Go to-
colored, go to the colored map, Sunshine.
Our-
Go back up to our colored map.
Yeah, this one.
They're in the
Okay.
green, right?
Yeah, so this is zone 1. This is the most prohibitive one, because it's right off the ends and their approaches. And then this red is the second most prohibitive.
So there's only
Right.
5.
Right, and then 3 are the wings here. And then 4 is the extended approach zone. And then 5 is its sideline zone. So it's actually, 5 is a little,
So Kimberly, what's the circles that are around the zones? 'Cause that's confusing a little bit. I was thinking those
Like
would be
this one here?
5 and 6, yeah.
That's 6.
so
That's
this
6.
this dotted line represents the traffic pattern zone. And so everything that's not in one of these hatches, but is within the oval of the dotted. This outer one is, I believe that outer one is the overall airspace, so that's
The other one is the extent of the airspace.
So that's the,
yeah, this goes back to there's really 2
Fine.
different things at play here. One is the land use, which you guys are talking about. The second is airspace, which has more to do with, vertical heights of objects. And
that's what I was
not
thinking.
necessarily are the 2 the same, although there is some codependency at times. But where a land use regulation might allow you to build a cell phone tower, for example, the airspace could restrict that.
Yeah,
airspace.
and that's what I was most concerned about with some of these. Yeah, public safety is obviously a big deal. But the height of the supercenter isn't gonna impede an approach,
Right.
in zone 4, for example. Like Clear, that's a long ways away from the airport still. But,
So where are the ball fields in relation to this? Are they?
they're north,
East,
not that far north.
east, right where the Owen Roosevelt is, or somewhere there.
Here?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, so they're outside of the traffic pattern, so
Yeah.
that's good. That's good, because you got a lot of kids gathering there, right?
well, they're actually
Here. too.
South of Owen.
Yeah,
right,
no,
oh yeah, they are,
Yeah.
they're right here.
Okay.
In this area,
gotcha.
almost to the end of that.
Yeah, I never fly over the field.
I don't ever,
One concern with your
never do
zones-
that.
One concern came with the zone 6 that we have currently would be the high density.
I was flying from
Like school
over
or
to
something,
Vernal,
Not the high school,
from
but high
Provo, so I was
density
still quite
housing.
high. Man, it looked cool.
apartment building.
All lit up, it was dark.
On the exterior, that we've had some inquiries about doing some high density housing kind of on that Ioka Lane turn there on that outskirt of zone 6.
Here?
Uh-huh. and
Well, then,
annexing into the
you know.
city to do so, so that might be something we.
Even this is split out for higher density as well. You know,
Is called out to not have it.
well, right, no, I'm saying, but the parcels are already
This
split,
area right here is zoned
right?
for 30-acre lots, right there. That,
That's not the piece I'm talking about.
or maybe this is the piece. Where's Ross's?
He's in North.
Yeah, which would be our low density housing, but there's a Roy Patel. He
Well, Roy
owns-
Patel's, yeah.
Yeah, he owns some properties right on that line, on that 6,000.
Well, what I was thinking is, if you look at zone 6, it says,
It talks about high density housing is not allowed.
Under ours, or
Yeah.
that's the county's?
Under ours, and that's.
And the
not-
county.
only low-density residential, and what is our definition of low density?
Would be the R zones. So an RM zone would be your apartment complexes,
Right.
which that would not allow.
That's high,
But
because that's high,
Anywhere down
apartment
from the
complexes are gonna be high
R6.
density.
R6, which would be right on that line.
Yeah,
Just something to consider that might be pushing some of the development on the outskirts of that.
well, Roy's outside of that line.
There's the Lynn Labor that was talking about
Lynn-
maybe doing some of that as well.
Lynn and Wyatt and Ryan Ross, but they're within that line, but they're still only talking about,
In R110 right now.
yeah, quarter-acre lots.
Yeah, so I don't know if we'd be flexible is what I'm saying. If that does come to a discussion, that may be something we'll just have to deal with when it comes, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it would be much of an issue, because I don't see like
They're not
apartment
huge.
buildings or
Maybe 3-story.
townhomes or anything going in there.
So anyway, just a heads up.
Right.
So I'd say we keep our wording and let the county take our wording. We leave it at, and, because we don't wanna combine zones 1 and 5.
1 through 5.
Yeah,
And that was the biggest concern, was they are more restrictive and they don't want it. So
yeah.
I think that would be a good recommendation.
That's what I would.
What are your
So
thoughts, Neil?
Just to, if I could interject, I'm so sorry. Your language and the county's language don't necessarily have to match. And I think going and making a recommendation to the county on what you think is appropriate for your airport is wise, and you should do that, but they may reject that. And the delineation between what the restrictions are would just start and end at the city boundary lines, and versus, if you're in the county's jurisdiction, you'd have to follow the county's rules in the city's jurisdiction, and then that would just have to change over if property annexes into the city. So whenever those annexations occur, the parties involved would need to be aware of the zoning implications of changing over. But not necessarily will the county have to match what the city's overlay zone is described as.
Neil, I think you chimed in Zoom just after we had the discussion, but the county commissioners approached us about adopting what we have, because they would rather have what we have. They want us to present at or be present at the Monday meeting for their public hearing.
Oh, okay, my apologies, I did miss that. Very good, proceed then.
No, you're good, totally good.
Sounds great.
Hey, and
If they're interested in doing that, that's probably wise. I mean, it makes sense. It just may be, I know this, the city of Duchesne was kind of battling the same thing, and they may end up with some tweaks versus what the county's already moved forward with on that end, because they're coming at it after the county's done their work.
I want to know your personal opinion. Which one do you think we ought to go with, ours or the county's?
I think that the 5 different zones gives you more flexibility and is probably a better policy for the citizens in general, because you have the ability to make more minute adaptations of the policy. And there's nothing super sacred about how these zones are created and what is restricted in which ones and which ones aren't. So having that variety is advantageous to you as a city. It's also advantageous to the
Recording
city.
stopped.
Gotcha.
So I would probably lean that direction. The
Okay.
county is unique because they don't necessarily have the challenges of development and growth and variety of housing types and all of that. I mean, when you really only have low density, high density, and you're talking about 1 unit per acre versus
More than you want.
more units per acre, then, I mean, they don't have the same sort of challenges. So they can kind of get away with more of a blanket zoning statement than I think you can as a city.
Gotcha. Well, that
That's
sounds,
just the opinion of Neil Fraser, though. You're welcome to do whatever you.
hey, but you're Neil Fraser, the GUB engineer that knows just about everything about everything.
Oh my gosh. Don't start saying stuff like that.
Well, that's what Kim said before we started. She's like, I have no idea. I hope Neil's on because he's the one that knows everything about everything. That's just what she said.
I didn't say
Well,
no idea.
I've read all of
I
that.
said I was gonna wing
That's
it.
true.
I have enough to be dangerous.
Well, that sounds good.
Okay. Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah.
Is that direction you guys want me to take to the meeting on Monday then?
I'll try to be there, but I have a deer hunt, so if it's that or deer hunting, I'm deer hunting. I'm not gonna lie.
Can I make one other point?
Word document too, as well.
Yeah.
You don't want theirs.
I'm sorry to interject again. One of the things that you may also want to kind of address with the county, and I don't know how applicable this is to the city or within city boundaries, but the county, in their original proposal and what they kind of have already worked through over at the Duchesne side of things, has some pretty significant allowances in the policy for the energy companies out there in the basin. I would suggest that you make sure you take a little bit of time to take a look at what they've, I mean, they really accommodated the energy companies. You probably want to make sure that that's something that you work out with them if you're going to try and have the same language or similar language, and make sure that that makes sense for you and for the county if that's the direction you're going.
Well, we
And how
have,
much leeway you're willing to give energy companies in the area.
we have a lot of drilling around that area of the airport, and my
Right.
biggest thing is the last thing we want is an airplane to end up impacting one of the drilling rigs or workover rigs or something like that, so.
Right.
Flares are even kind of an interesting thing.
And it sounded like they were more than willing to consider adopting what we already have in place.
Yeah, you may see some pushback from the energy companies if they're there.
And
That's exactly right. The energy companies have been at all of the public hearings that I'm aware of,
Yeah, for Duchesne,
and representatives there,
and so
and they're very adamant about, their business practices not being infringed on.
there is language, isn't there language on the backside of that too, though, that says, that for the energy company, for anyone really, the development that is inside any of the zones doing the 7460 process?
7460 is required. I spoke about that at the last public hearing out there.
We had to make sure that was in the zoning documents, right?
I would strongly encourage that a 7460 needs to be done regardless. I think they made some tweaks in there. I'd have to go back and read it. That says, that was one of the things one of the energy companies came back and said, we don't have to do this unless these conditions are met. And my opinion would be that they should anyway. I can't remember what ended up in the final verbiage there, but I would agree with that you should encourage them to have language that anyone developing or turning dirt in any way is required to go through the 7460 process, the airspace process with FAA.
you can roll that into our Title 17.
So I do wanna point this out right here, one thing I didn't know when I was reviewing Roosevelt City's, comparing to Duchesne County's recommendations, they have a note in here, they've updated, this conditional use permit, something to the effect that, basically says you have to have, 7460, you have to have, must qualify for airport panel land use permit. Maybe this isn't where it was. There was a note that I have in there that we need to add to the city's website or city's version on there about having a, when is that?
A determination,
Oh,
we
no
need a
hazard.
determination from the
Right.
FAA.
That's it. I think it's in the disclosure rate.
I think that note came more good over the
Okay.
hours.
Yeah, that you wanna make sure that that's, that, you know, no matter what development is going on, we wanna make sure that, you know, they're doing a 7460 if it's triggered. So those regs, you know, depending on their, proximity to the airport, we need to do 7460s for those regs.
Good timing, we're just going over our title 17 right now, so we'll get at it.
Awesome.
Cool. There you go.
So anyway, anything else we should know about?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Oh, no. I think that was a good discussion. Thank you for letting me interject and be a part of that. If you're gonna be representing at that public hearing, I think that's a really good idea. But I think, maybe that was Drew I heard saying he was gonna go.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's awesome. And then if I could, I'll just add on, as far as the master plan and the ALP, I mean, our work on all of that is pretty well done. I spoke with Christy Yaffa at the FAA, I believe it was yesterday morning or the day before. And
Solar charger.
she completely admitted that she's the one who's holding it up and it's in her hands. She's trying to review it and get it put into the OE AAA process. She said as soon as she can look at it, she'll submit it through OE AAA and do her own review simultaneously and get it back to us as quickly as possible. They're just way behind over there, the ADO, so. I wish I could give you better information than that, but other than driving over to Denver myself, I don't know what else to do at this point.
You could fly.
Yeah, I could take you over.
I could fly to Denver. Yes, let's make a trip over and just sit on their doorstep. See what happens. That might be what we have to do if this goes on much longer.
I'm okay with camping out on the doorstep.
Yeah. We'll have to find it first. It's probably in some nondescript building on the outskirts of town, like, who knows? I don't even know where their building is.
Good stuff.
Okay, I guess Vince, Kimberly, are we all good?
Yeah.
Okay, alright, okay, well, Vince, we'll go to you with the frequency change.
Alright, so so our ATIS transmission, that certificate, did we update that? I'm assuming that comes through an FRM and
Yeah,
FCC
it was
radio.
already updated, we found out that
Okay.
we didn't have to, but yes.
But we have an account?
Yes.
Okay. So I have the instructions from the AOPA guy, since I'm the airport rep, and he gave me a link. If we have an FRN account already, I can go in and change the frequency.
No way, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
so it's pretty easy. And the FAA doesn't even care if you change frequencies. Since we're not, the ATIS is different because it's a continuous transmission, so
Right.
technically, legally, you have to have a license for it. But if we just have a radio in the FBO we're monitoring, technically, you don't have to have a license for that if we're not transmitting as a Unicom. It's just a CTAF. But the proper way to do it is you go in using the FRN account and
add the frequency, if we don't have it listed yet.
You'll need to advertise it with everyone else.
Well,
Yeah.
we're gonna put at the end of the AWAS, whoever listens to AWAS, it's gonna say CTAF frequency is 123.00. And there's other frequencies we
That's the
can use.
same as, huh?
Rollins is not good.
Yeah, so we don't have to worry about listening to the Rollins.
What do you know? What's the purpose of changing it?
Just because in the wintertime, when the weather gets bad, people will be calling into Heber from 20,000
That's
feet.
Cedar Cities.
Well, yeah, Cedar Cities.
Yeah, it's always
Yeah,
like, I'm just
the
thinking,
nearest 123s are pretty far away. I listened to it for a day and
the reason I know is because I went to 122.3 and they're like, this is
It didn't work.
flight service. Oh, okay.
So anyways, there's a bunch of different frequencies. The problem with some of the other frequencies, like 123.05, 122.975, 122.725, is if you have an older radio in an airplane, you can't get the .025.
Yeah.
You can't get 725, so they wouldn't be able to communicate.
I think 123 is great.
I think it's gonna be fun.
So it's 123.00.
00.
It's the same as Brigham City, I think too. That one.
Well,
Same
all
as
of them,
Cedar
all
City,
of them
yeah.
are, but I mean, it's farther
Yeah,
than
they kinda,
Heber, it's farther
We're
than
not gonna have
Craig,
to
and it's
deal
Or
farther
with
than
Rangeley, Heber,
Moab.
Moab.
We're
Rock
surrounded by
Yeah, you
one
get pattern
people.
altitude and you're like, who's talking?
Yeah, it's
I
like,
know.
shut up.
I know, it drives me up the wall.
Rangeley's
Rangeley.
1228,
Yeah.
and they got a school there, so it's like in the traffic
Mhm.
pattern, it's like, shut up.
Yep.
And then they wanna tell you, it's
And you
like,
can
hey,
hear
I'm
it
on the
clear
downwind,
Provo.
turning left for 2,500 feet, and it's sunny outside, and
Or Heber?
I was saying that the other day, I was flying, we were flew to Provo and I could hear him clear up to the mountains, Wasatch Mountains. I'm thinking, just shut up. It's
So-
annoying.
so we're gonna review,
I'm crossing.
how to make the audio message at the end.
And
and then if everybody agrees, I'm gonna start the process.
The FCC license that we have, I mean, will there be a cost for changing the frequency?
I don't think so. We're not
I don't know.
I don't think we have, did the FRN, I think the FRN, when I looked up on the board, the two certificates are up there, were 118.975. I don't think we have that frequency
128.
established yet, yeah. And
Oh,
if it
it's
is,
just
it'll be something like,
Right, yeah, I ain't saying it would be a
Yeah.
lot, I just.
We just need to make sure for flight and air nav and everything else.
Yeah.
That's the information and.
Yeah, so who officially like updates that on the map?
Kimberly knows how to do it. I have a link to figure out how to do it, to change our airport information on,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
your radio, yeah.
Yeah.
And
There's
then
some
it just
stuff we can
updates
do, but then some stuff FAA has to do. but I
yeah.
can talk
But like
about it.
frequencies we can do, notes and
And that
all
just
that
Yeah, I
stuff.
goes
talked to
up.
FAA the other day, it's fun.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So is everybody,
Uh-oh.
It's great time.
we make a
twice.
motion?
You get in trouble?
Yeah, you
No.
want me to make a motion, or do you want to?
I make a motion, we change the Roosevelt CTAF frequency to 123.00.
I second that
Spell out
motion.
that acronym for me.
Charlie Tango Alpha Foxtrot.
And it's 123.00?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So is that changing that from 1228?
Mhm.
Yes.
So now we're gonna change.
You have to change the door too.
Yeah, so we're not gonna do it in the next week or,
Oh, no, of course.
I'm gonna start the process
It's gonna
and,
take a bit.
yeah,
I'm sorry, who seconded that? I'm
So on the
sorry.
door.
I did.
JR did.
Thank you.
We changed
And it was
the door
unanimous?
also.
Yeah, all in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright,
So when you change that frequency, so we gotta do the front door also.
Yeah.
So that, you know, that's the code to get in.
Or we can just put on the door, old CTAF.
Yeah, right.
Range CTAF.
This should be easy enough to change the COM. on the
Is
door.
that-
into the hangar.
Yeah,
Do it twice.
I did it twice, and I still don't remember
We'll change it.
Maybe the battery's dead, or.
I have an
We'll
extra
try.
item.
Oh, Kimberly has an extra item.
Nothing big, we just have, it's airport capital improvement planning or a plan update time. Kirby has signed up for a meeting with the FAA and UDOT to discuss our upcoming projects for the next 5 and 20 years. That is on Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. It is
Here?
a Teams meeting, so anybody who wants to join in on
Yeah,
that, you can invite it as well. Anybody who wants to join that meeting are welcome. Kirby
I'll be
can
here on
forward.
Wednesday, so
Okay.
I'd like to. come to that one.
What day was it again?
Wednesday at 8:30 a.m. Yeah, almost a week from now. I do have some copies of what we had submitted last year,
And just
for
here,
It's actually just, online,
it's a team's meeting.
CIP,
So they,
Teams meeting.
oh, okay. Then I'm already on that. I don't see it showing up on the.
so nothing to vote on or anything on that, thank you.
I
I
can
just
just
wanted to
send that to you.
make sure you all were aware that was, that we're in that season right now. I say, so next year's funding is all gonna go to the, for 25 is gonna go to the fencing project. We'll be using up quite a bit of those funds for the fencing project that's available, a lot of the bill funding and such too. And then the next big project we've got is, let me make sure this all works. Looks like, the next project we have is the rehab of the beacon and installing the wind cone, so we're gonna replace the wind cone, the primary wind cone, and, consider replacing the beacon
That would be nice.
and the tower with a tip-down beacon, is what we're proposing, but, you know,
What's the tip down mean? Just meaning you can lay
It
it
means-
over and.
right, it's got a crank on it, and so you don't have to have a cherry lift or have climbing gear to go change the light bulb
Oh,
and to
okay.
maintain it. It tips down and goes all the way down to the ground, so you can maintain it at person level.
What will they do with the old tower?
I don't know. Scrap it.
I remember
What
getting that from Provo.
Really?
We were driving out there and that was Provo's old tower and then we were driving here painting
Put it in your backyard for the
Yeah,
kids
'cause we
to
used
climb.
to have a post, it was like a telephone pole and a crap light.
Really? That one's a decent tower.
It's, right, if you guys wanna keep the tower, that's fine too, you know.
It doesn't shine real green when I see it. It's like light,
Well, then,
a little less light.
So that's what we could consider, just updating the lighting system.
right, maybe just replacing the fixtures on top of the existing tower. One of
It was new
the
here.
impetus for replacing the tower was to make maintenance easier,
Yeah.
so that Clyde doesn't
How
have to
tall would the
put
new
a,
one be?
could be 40 feet. You know,
And it would still
somewhere.
tip down?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're big. I've got some photos of one if you wanna see.
Yeah, I think that's a good
They
project.
look kinda cool when they tip down.
One of the things that I'd like to bring up tonight that I don't know if we've talked about in a little bit, and it's not a capital project that we can use those funds for, but it's still one of the capital projects that we have scheduled for the city, is the lobby and the inside of the hangar. So still wanna this winter would be perfect to get that done. We have money in our budget to do it, and so I just think we need to get some bids and get rolling on that ASAP.
If you do get bids, there is a scholarship or grant available through UDOT for revitalization, airport revitalization.
Really,
They typically somewhere between 20 to 30,000 to help with that.
it's perfect,
They
that would
wanna
double the
have-
money that we have.
Right, but you gotta apply for it.
Let's do it.
There's, Sunshine, is there, any questions or things that you need in order to finish that application?
That flood
a couple
weeks ago, Clyde, that didn't hurt nothing, did it? That flood that happened a couple weeks ago, there, it didn't hurt nothing, did it?
I do.
Just ARPA?
Yeah, no, I don't have it. I do know who David with DBT.
A larger project.
No, the flood in
They-
in the building,
Oh,
in the water heater area.
He's a good guy.
You text me.
Absolutely.
Is that it, the CIP?
That's it. That's it. So you good?
Yep.
Yeah, I can send you his info.
Yeah, thanks.
And then you can talk.
Okay,
And so it's all
so
on
we
Zoom
did
then,
get
so.
some quotes last year. Well, we got an architect's opinion last year. I brought an architect out last November, and went through and he did a bunch of measurements and looked at the,
Did he have a
Okay.
rendering there at all, cause I didn't see that.
not a rendering, no, this was free, so,
Okay, yeah.
he was doing it on his own time. To just help us get what we needed to get that, application in. Basically, he broke it down into 3 chunks.
Uh-huh.
The first chunk is just the pilot lounge area.
Yeah,
And then, maybe putting that sliding glass window in where the office is.
well,
that
and
locks.
moving the AWAS equipment and everything else
Yes,
into the
that
office
office,
space.
right,
Yes.
and having that sliding glass window that locks and,
Yeah,
all that. And that's what I recommend that we stop at for this grant, because the rest of it, the bathrooms, getting them to ADA is gonna be a pretty big lift, and expensive. As well as, any renovations back in the back office of the apartment area.
But that's what I'm saying, if we can get the
Right.
grant, we have another amount that we can put with that and do the rest of that.
So part of what the UDOT's gonna wanna see is that on the chunk that we're proposing to have them help with, that you guys are also putting in funds for that too. And I think I've broken that down so that, getting about I wanna say it was between 40 and 50,000 just for the pilot lounge area.
Oh, from him,
Right, the estimates based on square footages and
okay.
things like, replacing the ceiling tiles, replacing the carpet.
Yeah, I
The
feel like
wall
all of those
paneling.
sections are like 50,000.
Yeah, so, right, so I'm saying.
So I think we can do it a little cheaper, but,
Oh, sure, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
so maybe what we'll do.
quotes would be even better, but I
Yeah.
mean, just to get the application in and get
Sure.
that rolling, you won't get the money until next fiscal year, because their applications are due April 1st
I'm not
for
gonna
the
be
following
mayor
fiscal
then.
year. So we've got time to get the application in. I think we need maybe a consensus by the board
Which
or
is still on-
direction,
is
so
still be on the
that we
airport.
know, so
Yeah, I could be.
Sunshine has
I'll
some
appoint
direction
myself
on what to
before
actually
I'm
apply
done.
for.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's good. Maybe what we'll do is, if he has, can you send me what he drew up as far as, his, measurements and everything else and what he suggests? Because obviously he doesn't have a rendering, but did he do like
Get your pictures and,
did he draw any kind of a floor plan modification or anything like that?
No, we weren't modifying the floor plan at all,
Okay.
yeah, just,
Because to have those bathrooms ADA is not that big of a deal, it's the hallway and maybe even the doorways.
right, and that would be, right, so
But
then
other than that,
everything
it's
would
just a
need
few
to be.
handles and things like that.
And there was a warning, I remember there was some sort of statement in his, report that he made about if you do so much, then you have to do everything to ADA.
Yeah,
So,
Close to the wall.
what's that?
Until it's too close to the wall.
Yeah, a little bit.
Move for ADA.
Mhm.
So you're gonna do some-
I can't remember,
It's a lot of
I got away with, well, I don't know that I got away with it, but I had Dean come in when I remodeled CarQuest.
Yeah.
And I did everything I could to make them ADA compliant, they weren't 100%, but I mean, somebody could get in there and use use the facility if they needed to, that was in a wheelchair or something, even though it didn't meet 100% of the things. So I had the bars and I had the wider doors and a few other things and
And we don't have to have
and the
a,
hallway, yeah.
would you have to have a women and, couldn't you just make it a lockable
You could
door?
make it
and
a one.
Just make it one restroom and you have all the room you need?
Unisex, all
Yeah.
genders.
I don't know, sometimes I'm just like,
Family.
they gotta go, and the other one's being used.
I mean, I've landed at some
All
airports
three,
that they
whatever
have,
of them.
it's a ADA toilet with a sink and
Yeah.
guys know how to use toilets too.
Well,
most
and
of
you
the
can
time.
still have a urinal in there.
There's no reason
Yeah.
to do
They
it.
just throw that right in the river.
What's that?
The urinal,
Oh.
throw it right in the river.
Why is that?
They're a nightmare to work on.
Oh,
Yeah, so he was estimating, this is last year's numbers, that the proposed improvements for the pilot lounge was about 55,000.
yeah, I think that's a little,
And then another 55,000 for the support areas, which is
I'd do
the
that
hallway and the offices going back, bathrooms. And then the apartment suite was another 66,000.
Hmm.
So, just to put that in perspective of one person's
and how
opinion.
large of a grant can we get from the FAA?
Not from the FAA, it's from UDOT.
UDOT, I mean, yes.
They are, so they've got,
What's the max that we can get?
they won't say that, they've
Really?
said typically that they're issuing them in the 20 to 35, they haven't issued any above 35 so far.
Well, let's go for 50 and let's make sure that we have 50
But if
match.
they don't have that and they come back and say no, then you wanna have it
Yeah, we can have it
scalable,
scaled, yeah.
so that you can say, well, we'd like to have, our project's gonna be 55,000, but we'd also like to do this other part, which is gonna make it 100,000. We're committed to put in the 50,000, the extra 50, if you guys can provide 50, but we'll take whatever you get,
Yeah,
type thing, I think.
yeah, we can do that.
If you only have 35, that's fine, we'll take it,
Yeah. Okay. What if they have, just a hypothetical, and then I know this is my last question, but then I do have a question for you after the meeting.
Off record.
Is if we let's say we did the pilot's lounge. Or let's say we put it out there and it was like, $70,000 or something like that. Is what we asked for, and that's for the pilot lounge, let's say, hypothetically. And then when we get bids back, we can do much more than just the pilot's
I don't
lounge.
know how they'd handle that.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, if we could, because I'm thinking if we could maximize the amount we could get.
Mhm.
I just wanna make sure that we're asking for the maximum amount and not leaving anything on the table. And then if we need to scale back, great, but then if we can do more, I wanna be able to just utilize that money for more.
I can put you in touch with Nick, who is your guys' UDOT engineer or representative for Roosevelt. And he also handles that program.
Okay,
I think that it'd be great, to talk about, for you guys to talk about
Yeah.
that. Your thoughts and concerns and have him explain
'Cause we
exactly
have-
what they can do, cause I'm just not familiar, but it also builds that relationship.
sure. Is there anything
He
else?
will be on that call on Wednesday as well,
Oh.
if we have some time, maybe that we can, at the end of the call, we can ask questions about the revitalization grant, what your thoughts are, cause I mean, I think we should talk about that on the grant, on the call, actually, cause that's one of your guys' goals, right?
Yeah.
We wanna make the airport more hospitable for pilots coming in and a restful pilot's lounge that's,
Mhm.
not an eyesore.
It needs updated big time.
Absolutely,
And the other
right.
thing, so we have two capital projects, we have the inside and then we have the exterior that we've talked about, painting and
And they can also
stucco
help with that too.
and a few things.
Yeah,
So
I
I didn't
mean,
know if they had
not-
two different programs or.
No, it's one program, you can probably apply for one this year, maybe one next
So
year.
I
So they're
would-
trying to
I
spread
would-
the love around the state, right? They have to spread it around the state.
Yeah,
right, to-
what I would ask the committee is if I go to the council and really start pushing hard on this, would you guys rather the exterior be done first, or the interior, the lobby? Should we go for an exterior project or interior?
Yeah.
Interior, then we'll do the exterior.
Yeah.
We already have the roof that's been secured and
So then we're good.
sealed and everything else, yeah, that was the main
Yeah, I would
concern.
say interior.
There's a lot of eyesore buildings, but the interior is
Yes.
very eyesore.
Hey, I love that paneling
I like it too, but
and the
I like
roof.
the bathroom
Table.
paneling, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
There's so many pictures I can get out of what's in there.
You spend too much time in there apparently.
Since I was 5,
It's a throne.
What are you doing?
it's a road.
Oh, my word.
Okay, well, I'll pitch to them and maybe we'll get working on that.
Yeah, I mean, she's got a lot of that drafted, she just, Sunshine does, she just needs a decision. from
Maybe
the
what I'll
board.
do is get with Dean and we can draft our own floor plan. Get with Dean, Clyde and a few and just draft our own floor plan. We can draw it. It doesn't have to be anything super fancy.
Right.
But we can take all the measurements and everything else and I mean, we can have a floor plan that we can go out to bid with. Meanwhile, we can be working with UDOT to get the application.
Yes.
I just wanna, we have a couple of contractors we've been working with as a city and they've been very reasonable
Oh,
as
good.
far as the pricing
Right, and
goes.
you could get a quote from them if you don't
Yeah.
like these quotes, and could
Well, and that's
be-
what I'm thinking, I would like to get an actual quote from a contractor to see
Yes.
really where we're at before we finalize an application to UDOT, especially if we have till, when does the application due?
It,
Date?
annually April 1st.
Yeah, so we have some time to work on it, let's do our due diligence and dial it in and then get our best guess before we put the application in.
Can you
Yeah,
put that on the
yeah.
item for future discussions, the FBO improvements, just so we don't lose where we're at now? Thanks.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
You know, you have a space, but
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
you know what I mean? You can
Yeah.
speak to everyone. I'm not, I'm just the only representative, it's just
That was
that we
last
wouldn't have